Okay.
Very. Mehdi, did you have a comment?
Yeah, pertaining to this, I think the territory we're in, and the reason why we're in where we are, is because when NATO basically made this happen, it is by design. They wanted this to happen at some point. They never considered anything about if they would have to bail out and stop the process. They couldn't conceive that they would lose. And it's what tells me this is because of the atrocities they were willing to perform, that they expected that they would be able to cover up and hide from their own people with propaganda, because history is written by the winners. So they never expected that maybe they could turn out to be in a Nuremberg type of trial at some point down the line. And now we've moved into the territory where some of these dipshits, it's dawning on them that, holy shit, BRICS could do anything that the UN could do, and maybe even worse, because it'll have more participation and trust around the world to do the human rights investigations. I've been saying this from the beginning. Is the reason why BRICS exists is to be a place where Russia can go in, because it did the SMO, Special Military Operation, which to me means they were gathering evidence to build upon and show the world. You know, and Draco says is right. Like, everybody sees it from a different angle, but all these points of view are right up to some point. You know, and that's the thing. We're kind of arguing minutia, but we're all going in the same direction. And that's what I want to thank every father that's up here or listening in the chat. Thank you for being here. I'm a father myself, but thank you for being aware enough to know that why we're here is because we don't want them to die on a nuclear horror show. At least we're going to talk about it. And at least history will show that some of us actually gave a fuck.
To just say to what Voz has said about weapons, and Russian weapons are crap, so it's better to buy American, what it was told to. There is a saying in the world of arm manufacturers and the market of weapons for armored vehicles, fighter jets, and so on. If you want the best, buy made in USA. If you want to do war, buy made in Russia.
Yeah. American weapons are made for projecting power. They're not made for winning wars.
They're made for make money. They just money.
Money.
You can see a $5,000 drone destroying fucking 2 million or whatever.
There's a big misunderstanding what Russia is. Like, if you're not Russian or you don't live in Russia, you don't understand what Russia is. And I think that there was a massive miscalculation on the world, especially like the NATO countries, when they wanted to start conflict with Russia, because the culture in Russia is completely different. Their people are willing to make war with the world if they feel that their existence is in jeopardy, and they have the resources that you would not believe. I live in Siberia. I live in Irkutsk Oblast, where we have so much shit to give to the west of fucking Russia, and they just do whatever they need to do. We export to China, Mongolia. Like, Russia is in the center of the new world, in my opinion, of course. And so, like, this conflict is not going to end well. Like Dracu says, the European countries have the most to lose because they have the least to give, and they've already given so much. So it's a very strange situation that the Europeans are in, because they are acting like they have infinite amount of raw material, infinite amount of money, when in reality they're very poor and they have no natural resources. 100%. So it's not looking good for these guys.
Well, just to follow up on RL's point about buying the best versus winning a war, I think that's pretty clear to anybody watching this. Like, if you're a government in Africa, the Middle East, South America, anybody who's looking for military defense, not offense, defense, you're probably phoning up the Russians right now and saying, yeah, one of these S-series systems, how many can we get? Because, you know, it's clear to us that if we want to defend our territory, anti-air weapons seem to be, you know, the best bang for our buck. And, you know, economies of scale, you can get a lot more Russian gear than you can U.S. gear, just because of the purchasing power of you know, your euro or your dollar or your peso is going to go a lot further in Russia. So I think any country right now watching this comedy of errors that we have going on in Ukraine, it's going to be a boon for the Russian military industry.
Yes, one more thing. You know what they offered to Zelensky. If you see when Zelensky is talking after April last year, he starts saying, the only way I'm going to negotiate is if Vladimir Putin get removed from the power. He's not talking to the West. He's talking to the Russian people, you know. He's basically trying to cause a revolution in Russia because they thought the sanction is going to kick off after 3 or 5 months. And the sanctions failed. So now the West don't have other choice just to fight until the last Ukrainian.
I'm sorry.
I don't even know what that means, fighting to the last Ukrainian.
Yeah, I think Zelensky said that because he knew that this is impossible. He knew, and he just wanted to make war. He was promised money for making war.
Trust me. The West thought that if there is no McDonald's in Moscow, people's gonna like, wow, we want McDonald's. Putin out. Yeah. That failed.
Oh, this was not the team.
No, it's like a gambler that keeps on putting money on black, or I don't know how it's working. You know, it's keep on investing money in a failed cause.
This all started back in 2008. We've been dangling the protection of the Ukrainians in front of them to basically make it a corrupt circular money flow. And we've been dangling it out there. What do you think is the reason why Zelensky and them would bow down to anything we said? Because they needed us to provide protection for their Nazis. Well, basically the street gangs that had their own territory that the CIA trained to become an even better Nazi that was well equipped. That was always dangling out there. That's what Biden was how he was directing the efforts. And at some point, this conflict was going to happen. And I believe they thought it would happen during the Clinton administration, the Hillary Clinton administration. But Trump got in the way. So now that Trump is out of the way, they can go with their plans, but it's totally fucked because Russia has been planning for at least since 2014, as some have said. It did start there. People don't know that Russian tank production actually started kicking up in 2019. It didn't just start. The Russians were preparing for this eventuality within this time frame. And that's when we talk about Russian weapons, if you look at the Ukraine as the ultimate showroom for what product you have, what can you walk away with that right now you would want to get from the Americans or the Western industry right now? I can't see nothing because the one thing is Russia builds its armor and tanks to fit its doctrine. What we do is we just build fancy weapon systems with all this protection and shit like that, throw it to the troops and say, hey, learn to make it effective, is basically what happens in the United States. Sure, we have cool fancy shit, but if you only have 2 months to learn it, and then they throw you into combat. I could tell you right now, it's going to be a shit show. Guderian himself said when the Panthers were first put in use, first thing he said was, we need more training for the crews to get more time and experience with the weapon systems they had. And these guys were getting 2 months training. So it's the same problem throughout history. I'm telling you, people, read history. You will see a lot of this, just a reoccurring pattern.
And yeah, there's a point. I think it was Wyatt when he was in talking to the Duran guys that he made that was actually very interesting. He pointed out that Zelensky has actually done a very good PR job, and you think about it like logically and don't take a side. If it wasn't for Zelensky, they probably would not be. Okay, let me give you an example. Petro Poroshenko would not be as effective as Zelensky is right now. One, he can barely speak English, and he just looks like an old guy. So I think the look of Zelensky, the character of Zelensky, was prepared by somebody. I'm very skeptical about a lot of things. So I think the character that is Zelensky was prepared way ahead of the conflict. Because all these young people on Twitter with the Ukraine flags, they needed that guy. That guy is the guy they needed.
Well, it's kind of funny.
It wouldn't make a big difference when you have BBC and CNN on your side.